How are you, Chelsea? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm very well. How are you? We're both equally very bright and vibrant today, aren't we?
That's it. That's it. We're in the public eye. We've got to have some colour to add to our natural personalities, of course. I know we were just talking offline before we were recording. It seemed like forever for the recording to come on, and we were talking about, just for people that listen to this, to transcriptions. Okay, so when we record these, we get transcriptions. It tells us what we said, or what it believes we said. And recently, and actually, you had attached to this. What was it? Fireflies.
Fireflies, yes.
Okay, and you recommend that one, yeah?
Yes, it's brilliant. I think it's the best.
You think it's best? Well, I'll put it to the test, but it hasn't got much to beat, because this one, which I used on Google, when I tried to do a recording for part of my book, it actually didn't recognize anything whatsoever. It was all over the place. So I'm now just thinking, anybody listening to any of these interviews on the podcast, these conversations, I'm sure no one understands what I'm saying. They're just interested in what you say.
I think that they're probably very interested in what you're having to say, and they're probably equally interested in your accent and where you're actually from, because I think most people try to pinpoint the English accent, and I can't actually remember where you're from exactly.
There we are. Well, actually, I had 2 meetings earlier today to try to pinpoint my British accent, as they call me, and both of them said I was a northerner, which I am not. I'm a southerner, so I'm from Essex.
That's right. I do remember you mentioning that, actually, and I didn't pick Essex. I don't know why, but I definitely thought more northern, or maybe Manchester.
Yeah, no, there's nothing mank in my accent, I'm afraid. So, okay, I'm talking of accents, though. Don't pick on me. What about your accent? Tell everybody where you're from.
Yeah, so I had a bit of an unusual life. So I was raised through 8 different countries. My mum was American. My dad's Mexican. Obviously, I didn't pick up the skin tone at all. But yeah, so
What about the love of tequila?
The love of tequila. Oh, see, the funny thing is, I don't even drink. So when I was living in the UK, I feel like the UK is definitely my home in my heart. But it's the only way that I didn't feel like I fit in the UK was my lack of drinking. That was the only thing.
Okay, so sorry. So you're telling your story where you're from. I rudely interrupted on the topic of tequila.
That's okay. So basically so my mom, she was a single mom, and she took me all over the world. So from the time I was born, we lived in Central America. We lived in a Westphalia pop-up van, driving through Central America, so Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, up through Mexico, and we lived in the van for 3 years. And that was from the time I was born, and then onward from there, we country hopped all over, kind of like modern gypsies. So all over. So from Germany to Mexico, Central America, Australia. I moved to Germany later, the UK, Spain. So quite a few places.
Okay. Right, so it's not every day that I meet someone that's travelled more than me as well, because I'm well versed in this, and I've got a lot of time for expanding horizons and the benefits that come from it. Something I've had a couple of topics of conversations with recently is single ladies travelling alone. Okay, which is different to the guys. I get it. Okay, there is a vulnerability issue there. There is differences. Okay, now the list of countries you listed out there, maybe from the age of 1 to 3 in the van, probably on a wary list for those that want to go travelling alone and visit countries and that. Okay, what's your advice on those countries in general for people in that situation?
Yeah, it's interesting because when my mum and I were traveling around, it was in the early 90s. So, things change all the time, don't they? In terms of, people right now are saying, Mexico is really dangerous. It's like, well, parts of Mexico have always been dangerous and no one should go. And, but Mexico is an amazing place at the same time. So I think the main thing is doing the research beforehand. I'm a very spontaneous, like, let's just do it. I'm going to go to Sumatra tomorrow kind of thing. And I've always been like that, even, when I was really young. But I think it's really important for females to do a bit of research, especially in Australia, because I think Australians are very much like, mate, we're just going to go and see how it goes and see how it works. And then, everything to the wind. And sometimes they don't do the research because there's that spontaneity that kind of overrides it. but then I think as single women, we have to be a little extra careful. So yeah, I would say obviously Belize, Honduras, Guatemala. Guatemala is one of the most amazing places. But, you know, just do the research. When you're going into Mexico, you don't want to go into Sinaloa, which is a very dangerous spot, without doing your research. I would say don't go to Sinaloa. Some people, you know, I think like the surfers a few years ago, they decided to go from Australia, and that didn't end up so well because they didn't do the research. So research is important.
Okay, all right. So I appreciate that, and I know certain people who I'll point this conversation to after them bringing this up. But being well travelled, you lived in these places. Obviously, calling Sydney home now. Okay, where's been your favourite place to live and work?
Oh, great questions. My favorite place to live and work. Oh, my favorite place to live. You know, I think I would say I moved to London 3 weeks before the lockdown, so before the pandemic hit. And to be honest, that was the highlight of my life, was living in London during the lockdowns, because we're in this period of time that hopefully will never repeat again. And it was just incredible because you walk down, you know, I was living in Richmond and then Notting Hill, and I'd walk down the street and I would see all the beautiful buildings and there's no one out. Obviously, they're all in their homes, and it felt like, I don't know, being in the 1700s. You know, I thought, oh, this is really a step back in time when things were a bit less you know, less hectic and, you know, less population. So I loved that. And also the camaraderie that seemed to come along with the COVID period in London. People, you know, it's kind of like clap for the NHS, and, you know, people kind of helping each other out for the most part. You know, it was kind of clap for the NHS and then job on your neighbor later on. But overall, it was, you know, overall you felt the camaraderie. So I think that was my favorite place to live.
It's interesting to say that, because that's probably one of the most British things I've heard. Yeah. Okay, so obviously I'm from the UK. Yeah. I would love to experience London without the people as well. You know, so I think that's actually it's unlikely to be repeated anytime soon. It's almost like the movie 28 Days Later, but without the. I suppose it's the same theme as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly how it felt when I thought this is literally like 28 Days Later. I remember thinking, like, is there going to be a zombie coming out to like start attacking?
We're far from it, really. You know, it's probably give it time, eh?
Honestly, it was crazy. But yeah, so London definitely. And to work, I would say, you know, London as well, to be honest, because I had these amazing experiences. I walked into a little cafe, and I was asked by the owner to write a book. He had a book deal with a publishing company, and, you know, it just happened. And there's that kind of creative spark that happens in London that I think that's quite natural. And, you know, things just happened like that. And, you know, now I'm a published author because of walking into that little cafe for a matcha latte. And, you know, so I think, yeah, London definitely. Favorite place to live and work.
All right, well, I'll take that as a personal compliment, being that roughly enough where I'm from. But yeah, the camaraderie in a crisis is so the UK. The UK is a small island, overpopulated, well overpopulated, especially London, and they've got all sorts. I think it's the city with the most languages spoken in all the world is in London, from what I believe. But what happens is, if you live there, everyone hates each other. Okay, so the Scottish hate the English, we'll go with that. But then if we focus on Scotland, then the Highlanders hate the Lowlanders, so that's that. Yeah. And in Lowlanders, you've got Edinburgh, Glasgow, so they hate each other.
Yes.
And then this suburb hates that suburb, this street hates that street, but next door neighbour, they all hate each other. They really do. Okay, they sugarcoat it with banter, but it's genuine hatred for each other, until something goes wrong. So we go to war, we get invaded, all of a sudden everybody loves each other and they all get along, and all the different accents, which is a myriad of, okay, all come together, and there's this camaraderie out of nothing, okay, but one minute they're all attacking each other and backstabbing, and next minute they've got this amazing camaraderie. And it's that for me is UK in a nutshell.
That's so true. Absolutely. What's the word? Or the term. It's like our common enemies. Common enemies are our friend, something like that. But it's like, yeah, as soon as there's an enemy, a threat, it's like, okay, let's band together. And do you know why that is? Why do you feel the UK is like that more than other countries?
I would say it's probably down to it being an island nation, a small island nation, and a historical island nation. So that there's things like the reason why the accents are so different everywhere you go, and we're in a relative short distance, like I think it's every 15 miles is a different accent, and that's because of the old market towns and how they used to go in, they used to differentiate themselves from there. So I think historically it's been passed down in a tribal sense.
Yes. Okay.
But then when someone attacked part of it, they attack all.
Yes.
And I just think that that's just like the culture that's been handed down and we inherit.
Yes.
I don't know. That's my guess.
No, it's fascinating. I love this stuff. I wish this was just a full history podcast because I love talking about this stuff. It's brilliant. And where's your favorite place to live and to work?
I really struggle to answer that, and I've been asked that a few times. So I think the most beautiful place I've been to is probably Greece. I think I think Greece is outstanding. Lots of history. It's just it's a nice place to retire.
Yeah.
But you can go about. There's lots to see and do as long as you get out of the tourist traps. In my opinion, I love Holland as a place to live and work.
Yeah.
Bit too cold for me. It's a bit colder than the UK.
Yep.
But the Dutch they're crazy, but good crazy. A bit like Audi, good, different.
Yeah. Definitely. The Dutch are lovely.
But they've got things just right. I think they've got a good status quo, and obviously Australia is fantastic in its own right. But the only downside to Australia is what I'm missing from the UK. And vice versa. We just need to move the UK and Australia a little bit closer together.
Exactly.
We'll make the UK like the new Tasmania or something, and that should fix all the problems.
Absolutely. I think the geographical remoteness of Australia is the tricky bit, isn't it? And I mean, it's a blessing and a curse, I think, because we are so removed from the rest of the world. But sometimes I think Australia can become its own bubble where, people love to take trips outward, but the geographical isolation is so, like, you feel it when you're here. And so there's a sense of people, it's almost like it's, the way that I feel is it's almost like being on holiday all the time because you're so removed from the rest of the world. And what I would sometimes say is the real world, which that's and which people can interpret in different ways, but so there's a goodness to that and a challenge to that as well.
Exactly, everything's pros and cons, and I think you're right. It does feel like we're living in that dome that's on The Simpsons or something, and put it over us a little bit. But the difficulty is that if I need to go somewhere quickly, anywhere else in the world, for whatever reason, say a crisis, something, family, whatever, I can't just do that. It's not that easy. And if I do, it's a big dent into my current life. It really hurts what's going on, and things can't happen. Whereas in Europe, you're needed in Germany, you just quickly go and see what the quick flight is, hop over and hop back for lunch.
Yeah, exactly. And it's only like 20 quid or something like that on on Ryanair. So it's easy. Whereas here,
and in space only.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. So it's different, different realities almost. Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So we're talking about where you come from, what's made you, and I think it's really clear that your childhood, your upbringing, and what have you is made you who you are today. But who are you today? What do you do?
Yeah, definitely. So what I'm doing, so I am a community engagement partner at MacArthur Community Care. So I'm working across 2 departments at the moment. So it's aged care and then disability as well. And it's been brilliant. My background was in running wellness and mental health retreats for women and men and kids in Western Australia, where I lived for 3 years. And that's fed into what I do now. I'm very much about supporting people with their mental health, definitely, but health across the board. And I'm an author, and I teach yoga, and I do Reiki energy healing. So I do travel astrology reports as well. So it aligns people with where they are most suited in the world. So I do lots of things. I'm very entrepreneurial, but I also like being part of a team at times too, which is why I'm doing my work at MacArthur. So
that's you living and breathing your pros and cons concept, which straightforward concept, but everything good has something bad attached to it. And obviously you love being an entrepreneur, but you also need that structure. So it looks like you're living your life by hedging your bets somewhat as well.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think there's a lot of women you have like the whole girl boss thing nowadays, which is like, oh, women have to be, this like strong powerhouse. Da, da, da. So there's a lot of pressure put on women now to be not only mothers and to have a family, but also to be the girl boss and to kind of do everything. And it's really stressful, I think, in this day and age, to have as a woman. Also, obviously, very stressful for men. There's on both sides. There's lots of things happening. Lots of things. I think generationally as well, in terms of stressors. But I think for me, I really like to delve into those both aspects and to not feel too pressured by having to be the girl boss, but then being like, okay, it's okay to be employed as well. Like that's not a detriment if you're not, running your own Fortune 500 company by the time you're 30. So I try to navigate between those things, which I'm sure you can understand because you've done a lot yourself as well, I know. And, obviously you've been around the world, you're very entrepreneurial yourself. So, I'm sure you've pinpointed what works for you and what doesn't. And I think you're a people person, aren't you? So you like to engage, but then run your own show as well.
It's interesting you say I'm a people person, but I think it's wearing thin the older I get.
Fair enough.
My tolerance is going out the window. I think I'm destined to be a grumpy old man, like Gran Torino or something.
Being Clint Eastwood wouldn't be a bad thing. I used to work for him actually back in California.
Yeah, well, come on, tell us about that. I can't ignore that one. Whatever I was going to say now, you just done me with Clint Eastwood.
No, I used to do VIP events for like banquets and events for Clint Eastwood and Bill Gates and Gene Wilder used to live on the property as well back in California. So I remember this one actually really cool story. This was at Rancho Valencia in Southern California in San Diego, and I was setting up this event. Right, I was kind of doing the lead serving or the managing. And all of a sudden, this man, I was setting up, there's these beautiful tables and really, it's a beautiful Relais and Chateau property. I was setting up the table and all of a sudden I see this old man with this frizzy hair walk up the stairs and he had these bright pink glasses on. And I looked over and I was like, what's that? And I was like, oh my God. And I looked up and he's like, oh, hello there. And he had the funniest voice. And I said, oh, I like your glasses, sir. He's like, oh, I just found these on the tennis court. And they were just some random, like the women's pink glasses. Turns out it was Gene Wilder, from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And he had gotten older. He's passed away now, but he lived on the property. And yeah, he's the most amazing guy. So yeah, it was fun times. But anyway. That was
he's infamous now on memes, but what was the movie where he was the blind guy or the deaf guy? Oh, he was the deaf guy, wasn't he? And the other comedian, Richard Pryor, was it? He was the blind guy.
Yes.
And they were trying to get away from these bad guys, so that's communicate with each other.
Yeah, that was
the ice cream on his head at the end. I remember.
Yeah, no, I remember that. That was a great movie. I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to look it up after. But yeah, that was wonderful. He was a funny man. I think that was when comedy movies were still good, as opposed to now when they're questionable. Don't you think?
That's still, so if you go back, so actually here's one for you. I'm very sure he's in this, and this is it's probably one of the most controversial comedies of all time. Yeah. Was Blazing Saddles.
Okay, I don't think I saw it.
Okay, you probably need to see it before they take it away entirely. Okay, but it takes a stab at racism. It's a comedy about racism, or Western racism.
Yeah.
Okay, naturally, people are definitely going to say it's a no. Now, when you see it, it's so in your face and whatever. But it's comedy, and it's how comedy is intended. If you imagine Gene Wilder delivering on this, with his little twinkle in his eye and little puns and little things. Did you get it or did you not? I did. Sort of persona. Yeah. Then he pulls it off, and it's been reviewed recently by some people of race, and they've watched and they've loved it because they've got it right. It's we can laugh at this, we can laugh at ourselves. It's okay to be different and what have you, and it should stand up. It's not. There's nothing there for people to get offended by.
Yes. Interesting. I was just gonna say that's a very interesting point, the offensiveness. I mean, I think nowadays people are kind of offended by everything, and there's a sense of like we have to be so careful with everybody that we can't, say anything anymore. We can't say anything without hurting someone's feelings. So yeah, 100%. I think going back to those comedies, those old, like the old school style, sometimes can be. Yeah, I'll have to watch Blazing Saddles. I'm gonna have to write that down.
It's actually a cult classic. If you're going to put, there's probably a list of movies that everyone needs to see once in their life. That's one
Yeah.
of those.
Brilliant. I
Yeah.
love it.
It's brilliant. I might need to. I might rewatch it again myself, to be honest with you. But it's interesting. Comedy has had its fingers burnt somewhat on what you can and can't say. I know even recently they just stopped Little Britain from being aired on all the streaming, so that's banned.
Yes.
Did you watch that whilst you were over there?
I did. Yeah. I saw something on Instagram the other day and I thought, oh, why did they bring up Little Britain? I was like, and so it must be because they took it off. And so it's because it's too controversial.
Yes, yeah. I don't think it's really controversial. It's just that it offends and what have you. It's not, these things are not intended to offend. I don't think people do generally.
Yeah.
When it's a place of intention to offend, and I think that's the key that people have lost in communication. Like, if you're trying to offend me and I can clock that, then I can still choose whether I'm offended or not. Yeah. But my issue isn't about the offence that's made; it's about your intention, and we've lost that interpretation, that skill to actually understand. So all we've now done was just dumbed ourselves down, and intentional or not, everything's an offence. If we don't like it, if it doesn't agree with our beliefs or humour or how I classify myself as, then it's offensive.
Yes. That's a really good point, actually. I'm kind of integrating that, because I think that is really interesting. We have dumbed ourselves down because we've just put a blanket statement of like, oh no, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that, you can't talk about things with women or things with different cultures or cultural appropriation or whatever it is. It's like, if we're just putting a blanket over all of this, well, then, like, you're right, we are dumbing ourselves down because we're not actually cognizant, we're not thinking and intellectualizing things. We're just saying, oh no, can't talk about it, okay, let's just talk about some very basic subject or nothing at all. Or better yet, let's just get on our phones and blindly just scroll through Instagram and and it's just it's a different world nowadays, isn't it, in so many ways.
So that's it. I love the way you described that, because it means I've got the right audience here. That's good. I can say this stuff and it works. Okay, so thank you very much for that. But I think the issue is it isn't where we're at, because some people like it, some people don't. There's back to pros and cons again. It's where it's going, because it's got a pace and it's snowballing. It's getting quicker and quicker and quicker, and it's all consuming. There isn't that much left that isn't spoof, So it's a case of okay, let's put my parent hat on. My son's 10 years old. What's the world going to be like when he's 21 at this pace? And that's what worries me, I think.
Absolutely. What do you think? Where do you think we're going to be at in that time with technology and everything?
Technology is another whole can of worms, I reckon. I actually, I'm a little bit more, I used to be an optimist, but the world's made me a realist. But in this case, I'm going to be back to my usual self. I'm going to be optimistic. I think it's going to bounce back, because I think there's enough people that don't like the way the world's going and actually this isn't right. Stop cancelling humour, stop cancelling history, stop cancelling freedom of speech, or whatever it may be. Okay, let's just be reasonable to each other, back to how we used to it. And I think as people I think it kind of represents the majority, but we're too scared to say something. Starting to say things in the media and it's openly, and I think the more you push against that, the louder that voice is going to be, and I think it's going to bounce back. I think it's going to be like, come on, we gave that a go. We don't all look the same. We're not the same person. We haven't all got the same beliefs. Let's all just embrace our individualness.
Yes.
and just skip through life until it ends,
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree completely, and I think it's that individuality that I think we're losing. And I mean, I have a very kind of contentious viewpoint, so I'm like, oh, what can I say on your podcast? But even like with women and men, I guess my thing is, and in when I run the mental health groups as well for women and for men, I go, look, men can embrace their masculinity and women can embrace their femininity. And it's actually really beautiful when you're able to do that. And when you feel upheld in either, obviously, if you're a woman who feels naturally very masculine or a man who feels naturally very feminine, that's fine as well. But I feel like there's such a thing like, Like I've known, people who've said to their little girls, like, oh no, you don't want to wear pink, you have to wear blue, you have to be, don't be a girly girl, don't be a girl. And it's like, oh my goodness, it's kind of just swapped. And it's so interesting, isn't it? But like you're saying, Tom, there's a sense of like, just individuality, and to embrace that in people, and to know we are different instead of homogenizing everybody, and making everyone the same, because we're not. And I think even with feminine and masculine, there's a beauty in the polarity and in the difference of that. And I think we're losing that as well. And so we're homogenizing that, and then we're losing our sense of connection and the magnetism for each other, as I see it. I'm sure you do as well, like in public and society, and how people interact with each other, and all this stuff, in the dating apps. So it kind of falls flat, with, yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other.
It is fascinating, and I think obviously there is differences between guys and girls in the generalistic sense. That's why Olympics are separated. There's things there, and that it doesn't mean that guys can't do what girls can do, and vice versa. That's all back to the individual point, which is where I stand. But I'm from the stance, if an autistic kid tells you you're ugly, you're ugly. Yeah.
That's a good way to say it. Just take it.
That's it. We are what we are, and the problem is that the way the human brain works is we do pattern recognition, which is why we like old songs from the past. Oh yeah, when I was in London, da 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 da, and we literally revisit it in our heads.
Yeah.
Okay, and we look for this. Oh yeah, I've seen this before. It'll be World War III next week or whatever, and we've seen this always happen before. With pattern recognition, we've got it, and we pigeonhole items on this behaviour. On this basis,
Yes.
Policing does this, there's all these generalized, so we do this anyway.
Yes.
Okay, so all we've done is we've just put that on steroids. Okay? And we just gone way too far with this, and now we can't do any of that. So yeah, anyway, I'm rambling a bit now.
No, absolutely. I was gonna say we should probably have an hour podcast for this, because there's so many things I think to talk about that just kind of weave into each other with society and how it's going. But like you said, you have to keep positive about all of this, and whether it's people's interactions with each other, how people are socializing or not socializing, our technology use. I think just that intention and that mindfulness is the most important thing. Like, actually, just quickly going back to the technology thing, the other day I read something about how, I think, actually, was it in Holland? It might have been in Holland, where when you go into this kind of meeting hall, you have to actually put your phone in a basket, and you have to leave it there, and then you go and meet people, and no phones at all. And I loved that. They should have that here in Australia.
It's awesome, and that's right. So we do this when we have business meetings. That's how we met. People have their phones and they put it out, and if it's facing up, for example, it's really bad for communication, because it means what you're saying is, well, if this phone goes off, it's more important than you. Okay, so what we do as a courtesy, we turn it over, put it down. But the actual interpretation for the other person is still the same, because the phone's still there. We still interpret, well, actually the phone's more important than me. So the trick is always tuck it away, get rid of it. Okay, and then be present, have the conversation, see where it goes. When you ask how are you, actually mean it and want to know what the response is. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
okay? This ruins it.
That's so good. I'm just integrating that, because I do that quite often, where I will turn it over. And it's so funny, because I started to do that because I thought, I don't want to get distracted. I go into my boss's office, and sometimes he'll look down at my phone, and I'm like, I hope he doesn't think I'm trying to hide anything. I'm just trying to be polite.
That's just it, isn't it? So there's the attempt of being polite, but there's other double guessing going on there. So it actually still has a big part to play in your interaction, albeit it's not going off, it's upside down, it's out of your hand. But it's still the elephant in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really good, Tom, to just put it away, put it in the handbag, in the bag. Yeah, just out of sight, out of mind. The other person can't misinterpret or interpret anything. You're not being distracted. Perfect. I think that should be the go-to thing in all companies, to just kind of leave your phone aside if you can. But then that's the other thing is, in the workplace, we are doing all of our work online, on the computer, on the phones. So
And that's the flip side, isn't it? Because we're never really off work. It goes off. Oh, no, I've got to do this. Can it wait for tomorrow? Probably, but I'm going to do it now.
100%. No, absolutely. That's, yeah, it's really tricky, isn't it? And I'm a sucker for that. Like as soon as I see work email come through, I'll pick it up. I'm like, oh, and then my brain just goes straight to there and you can't switch off. So again, like, having that mindfulness, and maybe like you're saying, if we can go back to how things were, and if people can shift their mindsets to okay, well actually in the old days that was good when we weren't always attached to these little masters that we have, then that would be really good if we can. I hope you're correct that that wave will come in where people are like, enough.
So I'm not convinced on the tech wave, so I'm pessimistic about that one. Okay,
Yeah.
so I do think that's going to get worse. I think that they're already there, the brain chips, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The absolute tracking of what we're doing, how we are. So there's no signing anymore. Autographs going to go. You don't need a handshake anymore.
Yeah.
It's going. That's going that way, and it's going to be a very, very distorted reality. Okay. I remember. I was the first one to have a mobile phone. It's like this. It's a good weapon, not very good as a phone. And I'd know what to ring on another mobile. I'm like,
just waiting for someone else to have a mobile, and then none of us can get off of these things ever. It's crazy. I remember I was at the train station the other day, and I was looking at the other platform, and I counted, and there were 23 people on the other platform. 22 of them were looking down at their phone. 22. There's only one person who wasn't. I just thought, wow, what is this? But
it's funny you say that, because I do exactly the same thing, and I look around, okay, but then I do my best to make sure I'm not one of those people. So I'll put it away. Don't get us wrong, when I'm on the train or whatever, I'll read and I'll do some emails, so I'm functional.
Yes.
Okay? I might as well use a trip to be productive, so I don't mind that.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, it's that standing there, just being with yourself for a bit. You're only in between. There's a short gap in between trains or whatever. Everyone's got the glow on their face. And I just like, no, I won't do it. If you're in my pocket, I can just chill out for 5-7 minutes, whatever the next train is.
Yeah,
and just be with myself for a bit,
I think it's a great idea. And if we can introduce that to people, and even, your son, even Charlie, and to be able to just say, look, it's okay to tune out. It's okay to switch off. It's okay to put the phone away and to just be, and to, I think we need to train. I don't have children, but I really love the idea of childhood development and, instilling the right values and behaviors. And it's like, if we can make it permissible, if we can give people permission, give kids permission to switch off. Often they don't want to because they're so addicted, but to be like, wow, there's goodness in just switching off and putting the phone away and just being, and just looking around at the world around you. So if we can instill those traits in young people, I think that's really important.
This is probably a nice loop round, probably to wrap us up, I would say, because we've gone a little bit over, but we'll have to just get you on again. It's all right. We'll do a 2.0, a 3.0, 4.0. It'd be like Fast and the Furious or something.
No problem.
Fast and Furious 79. Where's that? So I listened to a podcast recently with someone who's talking about mindfulness. Okay, so you're on this topic. You've mentioned it a few times today. You've talked about it in what you've been doing with yoga and what have you. So it's got a place in therapy and sort of wellness now. However, what this person was arguing before, he goes, I was around before wellness, mindfulness was a thing. So what happened is, if we said I was going to meet a friend in a pub, he's a British guy, okay, and they're half an hour late, I would sit there. I've got no phone to entertain me, nothing else to do, and I'd just sit there, and I'd be miles away from my planet, internally, just whatever. And every now and again, I check the clock. Oh, it's 20 minutes gone, and it feels like 5. Okay? And just be alone with my thoughts. And we used to do this all the time. We were just comfortable being alone with our thoughts whilst we're waiting for people, because we didn't have that extra connectivity with technology.
Yeah.
And he goes, that there, without realizing it, is we naturally had mindfulness. We didn't need all this other wellness stuff, because we were doing it all the time, because we're in situations I had no choice but to sit there and think.
Yes. Yeah. Just be. Exactly right. That's a very good point. absolutely. So in a strange way, all of the things that I'm so passionate about, it's come about because of this technology. So I should be thankful for technology, but it's one of those things. But 100% right. You know, having that mindfulness and just instilling that back into our lives despite this technology, which is good and bad. You know, again, we're talking right now on, you know, I'm at my little apartment and, you know, you're yours, and it works. So, you know, it's the gratitude for both ends. But yeah, bringing it back to mindfulness, I think, is 100%. And I'm going full circle to what your original question was with the traveling, and, you know, the being mindful of where you're traveling to, you know, just, you know, taking that moment to reflect. And, you know, whether it's on taking a moment to reflect and go, okay, do I really need my phone right now? Yes or no. Do I need to be scrolling mindlessly? No. Okay. Or the mindfulness that comes with, you know, okay, if I'm traveling alone as a woman, you know, where do I want to go? Where's going to be safe? Where's going to give me the wholeness and the goodness and the feeling of peace? But it's also going to be safe for me as a woman without being reckless. So I think, yeah, it all comes back to that mindfulness and that intention, in this world when we're so fast paced and expected to just do things quickly without thinking.
That's it, isn't that the truth? So, oh, listen, I believe we could keep talking for quite some time, but we need to be respectful of each other's evening as well. So, listen, I'll wrap that up here, and thank you very much for your time. Anybody listening to this and wants to get in contact with you for either entrepreneurial stuff or what you're doing for work, okay, how should they contact you?
Oh, that's a good question. The best would be email. So it'd be hello@chelseajoy.uk, of course.
Done. Okay. All right. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for watching this episode. I hope that you did enjoy it, had lots of takeaways from it. As before, please subscribe below so you can keep on top of any new releases we have. And also, if you would like to have your story told, just reach out with me and I'd love to give you that platform. My best email address is tom@purplepatchconsulting.com. Thank you.